Welcome to Spark Sessions. I'm Sophia Sasso, and today the tables turn because the woman who has spent seasons passing the torch is finally stepping into her own spotlight, and it's time to meet your host. Sonya Locke is the founder and CEO of EDS Service Solutions, a national workforce solutions company operating in more than 130 locations across the U.S. and employing over 7,000 people. She's also the creator of Workforce Velocity and EDS Track, proprietary technology platforms transforming workforce efficiency and operational visibility. Behind the scale, the growth, the awards, and the innovation is a woman who has rebuilt her life more than once. A woman who has walked through instability, grief, business crisis, divorce, and reinvention, and still chose to build from meaning, not fear. If there has ever been a woman who fully embodies our tagline, this girl is on fire. Sonya, you have interviewed so many incredible women, and today you're in the hot seat. And I'm so honored to be here and to learn from you. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. And you make me blush with all that you say.
Cheers.
Can't think of anybody better to interview me.
So we start every podcast with the roots and rise, and every fire starts with a spark. So let's go back to yours and cover your upbringing and how that impacted you and who you are today. So,
yeah, and I definitely believe that. When we talk about who we are as people, it's all of those life experiences, all the people that you've met, and how those shape you to the soul that you are and what you become. So,
right.
My childhood started with, I was born in California, and even though my family's all from the South, they always called me a California girl because I had no Southern roots really whatsoever, and I was always the misfit. And my father, he worked for Ross Perot, and he worked for IBM, and we moved like every 6 months and from different states and different locations. So I kind of was always the new girl, and I kind of liked that challenge because it wasn't a reinvention, but it was a chance to kind of like meet new people all the time. And I kind of became really addicted to that. And but then when my grandfather got sick, I have a very close family, and before he passed, the rest of my family kind of gave him pressure to kind of move back to Atlanta because we were all over the place. And my sister was starting high school. She's 7 years older than me. So it was kind of like she wanted that stable background of not just picking up and being somewhere new. But that changed kind of like my whole family because my dad had a very illustrious career and was very successful, and there really wasn't that opportunity in Atlanta. It wasn't the same. And so at first he was working in San Francisco and then flying back and every week back and forth. And then finally moved back here and kind of started his own endeavors and business and stuff like that. But we still moved every 6 months because it was also, I guess, fitting into the different cultures. It was, I remember getting picked on so much when I first came in, coming from, I think the last place before I moved to Atlanta was in Detroit or Chicago, and didn't have the same accent. And I would try to be like really country and try to like blend in that way. And, I remember having like a shirt one time that had Hilton Head on it, and everybody's like, what is that? And like everybody was picking at me. And then also just the different education in every school. And so my parents would move here in Atlanta as well. So I was still moving schools at least every year. I think I went to like 13 elementary schools. And so, but it kind of helped shape me. And then also too, with the schools, it was different because every school had a different criteria. And me coming in as a new kid, they wouldn't put me in like advanced classes because everybody else had started like at first grade. And so I always had to kind of prove myself and also fight for my rights. I remember actually starting high school, and I really wanted to be in like the AP programs, and like I loved history and I loved writing and all of that. And they weren't going to let me because I didn't have the first year, the second year. And so, I had to go and beg my professors or beg the teachers and, kind of appeal myself to the school. And then I finally was able to kind of make it in there. But I think it taught me a lot. I mean, one of the things it really taught me is I can get to know people as really, truly genuine, fast friends instantly. And I still kind of feel like I do that today, like with my friendship with Krista, as we met at a bar in like 5 minutes. We are like now traveling all over the place together, but
Right.
you get to know the human and you get to know their inner qualities. And so I think that's kind of been a big part of my life, as well as that kind of wanderlust of never wanting to be in the
one
same place.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
totally that's a testament to who you are today. And I'm sure that was kind of a blessing and a curse, because at the time, I'm sure there was a feeling of instability, but in the end, I'm sure it taught you a lot about human connection and adaptability. And like you said, now wanting to continue exploring forever and meeting new people and not limiting yourself.
Yeah. And cultures and perspective. Like it's not just going to great places. It's like really to get the vibe of the community and the people and how much that shapes how I think and who I am. And so with that, like when we moved to Atlanta, like I said, the opportunities weren't that great. We went through a lot of financial strifes. And we came from a very different background. So my dad would do these celebrity golf tournaments and things like that. And so one minute, literally, I remember on the same trip doing this big celebrity golf tournament where I was being treated like a princess, going in and ordering everything at the restaurant and all that stuff, to having to pack my bags because we were about to get evicted because we didn't actually pay the hotel bill. So it was a lot of, instability in that respect too. But I never really saw that or felt that because I think we were very grounded. My father was like, he was the most incredible guy. He was a larger than life personality. And, he treated everybody as equals. It didn't matter if you were the president or if you were, homeless. He treated everybody as an individual and who they were and what they were capable of and not their current circumstances.
Right.
And so really going through that, I never really thought of the instability part. I just thought of, as long as we're all together, then it's still home.
Right.
And,
it's not where you are, but who you're with.
Yeah.
So how did that, or what did that experience or those experiences teach you about your relationship with money or security? You said you never really felt it and you always just felt like it was.
Well, I felt it. I mean, yeah, I definitely felt it at times. And I mean, especially when I went off to college, I mean, I was on Pell Grants. I was working 3 jobs. And my mom, when she would go to the grocery store, even though they didn't have that much means, she would tell my dad she had to get milk. And then if there's change from the 20s, she would mail it to me. So like every month I would get like a little bag of little odds and ends change. And, I wanted that stability, I think, for my kids. And I kind of that at that point, that's where it's like, okay, what do I need to do, to guarantee my success? Like my dad he was one of the most brilliant men I knew, graduated from Georgia Tech. He'd rattle off 100 numbers at the same time and he would give you the total calculation and be in the millions. And you're just like, how did you do that? And I also thought he knew everybody. Like we used to play this game when we would drive down the car. I would always be asking, who's that? And who's that? And he'd be like, oh, that's John. That's Bob. That's like, it was. So I never faulted my dad. He lived like he was a dreamer and an optimist. And that was one of the greatest qualities, was that he always saw the silver lining and everything happened for a reason. And, one of the biggest lines that he ever told me was, God never gives you more than you can handle. And that kind of propelled me to where I was always, I don't know, I felt like I could overcome. And I felt like there was a silver lining in another path. And money wasn't as much as matters, more where I guess the stability of the community that I built around me and the happiness that we had, I guess, as a life.
Okay, so going back to when you said that you felt like you needed to figure out a way to set up success long-term for yourself, do you think that ambition that you have today has always been engraved in you, or is it accumulation of all of these experiences? And once you got to college, or when did you find that ambition or that passion inside of you?
Well, I never really felt like I had that ambition for money.
Okay.
And, like I said, I wanted to be a college professor. It's not exactly, I could have been raking in like a lot of money and stuff. It's right, my goal. I think ambition for me and what my family taught me was trying the best to be the best person you could be and to really master a lot of different things. Like I was always given the opportunity if I wanted to do, I would do softball. And then no, I didn't like that. I wanted to do ballet and I'd do jazz. And so always trying to be the best at that. And then like with school, I was always wanting that curiosity of really knowing the subject and being really good at it. So ambition really was never about attaining like a wealth or something like that, but attaining a mastery of something.
I love
So
that.
I guess that's where, like with my education, when I wanted to be a professor, I wanted to master that subject. I wanted to know everything that I could about it and be really good at what I did. But it wasn't ever about like an ambition, like, oh, you have to be, making this much money or something like that.
Right.
And so that's where I guess I never really had that ambition in terms of, I always tell people I was an accidental entrepreneur, although I came from a lot of entrepreneurs. But it was the stability I think I wanted. I wanted that steady job. I didn't want that chasing a good deal on this mind and then the next month be somewhere else.
Right.
That instability was hard.
Of course, I can imagine. And I think that's such a beautiful perspective because along with it came to success. But when you mastered what you were good at, life just went up from there, basically, you know? And I think that's a beautiful perspective on it because if you focus on the people around you and what you're great at and your passions, then everything will come and fall into place. And it did because you stepped into leadership at a very young age and way before the scale of EDS is today. So before all of the innovation and recognition, what did those early years as a young leader teach you about resilience?
Oh, there was a lot. That was an interesting time period. So it was really, I tell people I became an accidental entrepreneur because between my master's, my PhD, my mother had some like mini strokes at that time. Like I said, I was exhausted. I graduated really kind of a little bit early, and then I was working a lot of jobs, and I was really just poor. I mean, I remember eating ramen noodles like every night. Then my roommate would like put a piece of chicken in. It's like, you got to eat protein. It's like, okay. And so came home to work for the summer with my future husband, and I couldn't get a job because I was too overqualified for everything. And it was during the recession, and he was working for the Olympics staffing and stuff, and there was so much need. So that's where he's like, hey, all these companies are looking to hire people. I think that, and at that time I was working at McDonald's as a regional manager because I was never, like I said, it was always about the work. And I was really good at that too. Like I made a whole spreadsheet on the queuing thing. Like it was always about like, I'm a good worker, but not like having that plan of, oh, how am I going to do it? And I went and made my first phone call to Avis. And I actually got the sale on the first meeting, and they needed 20 people starting that next week.
Wow.
And what was interesting about it was I had no employees. I had no business plan. I had no bank account. I had no insurance. So I had like 1 week to kind of really pull all that together. We had to make our first payroll match my boyfriend at the time's actual paychecks coming in because they don't pay like when you get hired. And it was very scrappy. And, but the first thing I did is after we did that, and it was all my dad's golf buddies, and they were all great, of course, and they were amazing. It's like I grew a 10, I show up and they're like, where did you get these people? Like they were smart, they were way overqualified, and they were doing everything. And then I went and recruited at every college in Atlanta. I recruited 1,700 people.
Wow.
In a matter of 2 weeks. I would sit at the lunchrooms. I would talk to people.
Wow.
I would get all those. And so then I kind of changed the direction of the airport because they were not used to anything but kind of day labor type as far as staffing.
Okay.
And it changed in terms of, they were like, where are you getting these people? Like I was having like law students from Morehouse, but they wanted to work 1 day a week and it was an easy job. And so it was a win-win for everybody. And then we actually got called by every other client at the airport. And then we grew very fast. And then we started getting called from other cities. And so I was 25 and like I said, worked, that's when my my husband, he also quit what he was doing, working together because we were making it big, but trying to find people to work with us that were kind of, I guess, the same, young and innovative, and, knew that the world was full of possibilities and stuff. And so that really did shape me into the leader now, because I looked at finding people that there was no set job description, right? It was like, how do I find somebody that is, smart as far as working with my client and logical, or great at recruiting, that had that personality that could talk to people and really get to know what their wants were. And so I had a lot of young staff, and I mean, we were a very lean fighting machine. I mean, we could do no wrong. So I think that was, that really did shape me into, I guess, the leader I am now. I love working with fresh talent, young and old, like even older ones that haven't seen what their potential is,
right?
And try to understand what their skills are. And, we always ran it on a horizontal, like, org chart, where it's like, I'm not the boss of you. Like, we were
working
friends
together.
Yeah. I remember hiring, which that was not a great hire, but at our office, we had this fabulous Irish bar downstairs. And, after working a 12-hour, 13-hour day, we would all go down, and he'd make the cute little shamrocks in our Guinness and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, he might be a good person to be a manager, but it's not. But, but it was a culture. It was like, we all kind of did it together. And I think that was always where success came from, was understanding the value of the people that you work with and what they bring to the table, and treating everybody as equals. And I think that kind of even goes back to, my childhood and how my dad teach people and stuff.
That's what I was about to say. It seems like you accidentally became an entrepreneur doing accumulation of what you did your whole childhood, and meeting people and learning about different cultures. And I think even to this day, we've had conversations where you say, I hire people based on the person and make a position that they'll excel in, versus hiring somebody strictly for that position. And I think that's such a different way to look at it. And I really respect you for that. And I think it's so unique and it's so you. And you can really tell when you go back and look at your childhood how you are that leader that you are today. And if we go back to the early days, you were not only building a business with your husband at the time, you were building a family as well. So what did that look like? I mean, what was the timeline and the balance or lack of balance there?
Oh, well, they always say that my son probably came out of the womb doing taxes. And because I did have a young staff, and he was the cutest little baby in the world. And so, yeah, another funny part about when we did start is that was also when I adopted my innie, as we like to call it, after watching Severance. So my last name was not Locke, but at the time, my father worked for me and my husband worked for me. And I was often treated as, your dad said that you could do this. And I would have all these employees, but my dad was very generous. And so we're like, oh, he said that you could give me a special check today so that I could get gas money and all this. And I'm like, I can't, do this every day. And then with my husband, he was very different. And, I was treated as I wasn't the one that was making all the decisions, even though I was the one that's doing all the stuff. And so I adopted my mother's maiden name so that I had my own identity. And I was a very male-dominated industry. I was in transportation. But that's where, when I started having my kids, and so no one for 4 years knew that me and my husband were married.
That's crazy.
Until my son came out looking exactly like him. I mean, we went by different names. It was like, so we worked together, but it was very much a business relationship, and we were very professional and no favoritisms. And then, like I said, then along came baby number 1, and he literally came to the office with me till the week before I gave birth.
Wow.
And my payroll staff loved him, and he'd have his little headphones on playing Widespread Panic after he gave birth. And all was good with that until I found out 5 months later I was pregnant with my second, which was definitely not planned. But that's when kind of things changed a little bit in terms of my priorities. And, what I was successful at that point. We were at a good place, and I, wanted to spend time with my kids.
And for anybody tuning in who may not know what EDS Service Solutions is, you have kind of created an empire and scaled it significantly from the early days. So could you kind of explain the growth and what EDS Service Solutions is today and your role?
Yeah. So, I mean, it really has been a combination of all my businesses, really, from when I started all the way back down to the Olympics. Like I said, when I was saying that I had college students who worked for me because they needed the flexibility, and the travel industry is very up and down. So where it really evolved is at first we were kind of traditional staffing. When I came back after I'd had my 2 kids and started again, we had technology at that point, which allowed us to go more on, okay, I don't need to just grow by city by city. I grew regionally, and it was more about partnerships with my clients, because what I'd learned is they weren't that good at planning their labors. Like after the Olympics, for instance, one of the best examples is they all ran out of money, like all at the same time. They spent all this money expecting the world to come to Atlanta, and then there was none. And so going back to like my spreadsheets and liking analytics and stuff like that was how to figure out, okay, how many moves can these people make? And then what's my volume? What's my intake and my outtake, to where then we kind of developed it more into a true workforce management, which is what we are today, where we generally will take over an entire location. But we have our managers that are trained in every real aspect, and they're working directly for the clients. We have our recruiting team that is constantly hire. We have our own technology company that's in Ireland that was built from my original spreadsheets, and that now is like a full, ERP workforce management solutions. And we kind of bring those all together to solve the labor issues of the travel industry, whether it be the car rentals, aviation, or with hotels, partnering with them to kind of understand, okay, their brand needs, but also the fluctuations with travel, because it is extremely fluctuating. But if I can train the people and I can hire them, because I'm much better at hiring because I have a whole department that does that, that's how we've grown. We never spent a penny on sales and marketing. It was all spent on developing these relationships. And when we're doing a good job in Atlanta, then people in Dallas call us and say, oh my gosh, what are you guys doing? And really boiling it down to how do we keep with them with what budget they're wanting to spend while still paying people the right amount to facilitate the job. So it was really with EDS, like I said, we're really more workforce planning and outsourcing. We do staffing too, to some extent, but we're very tailored and very specific with our clients because it's really more of a partnership.
Right.
And I think with the growth, it's been because of my team. I mean, like a lot of my people have been with me for 15 years. They've worked every single department. Some of the people we've had on the show, and we all work at it together, knowing that, everybody's not supposed to be good at everything. And there's not this hierarchy. It's a team. Like we don't have any competition. It's like we're working together. And if the company is doing well, then we're all doing well. Right. And so I think that's one thing that kind of sets us apart, and being, ethical and stuff, treating our employees right, treating our clients right, and doing the right things. So
yeah, I think that's so innovative, and there's so much culture, or that culture of a team and a family is so evident at EDS, and I can truly speak to that. So it's just very admirable what you've built and are continuing to build. And looking back at your roots, they were so formative as far as connection and resilience. But you did have a lot of foundational shifts throughout your life and throughout this scale and growth. So let's get into those burns and those challenges.
And I would say also, I don't say I built it. I say that my team built it, and who all have come in part of it. And that's really, I think, one of the things that I think is also very important, is it's everybody that's building it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've come to the burn, and sometimes the seasons that look the strongest test you the most. And you've had so many different seasons. So going back to a really early season where you decided you were able to step away a little bit and you wanted to prioritize time with your family. What did that look like? What did you learn from that? Were there any challenges there?
Well, I did stay at home, but then we also built this monstrous house, and we had like 4 houses at the time that I was doing construction for. Plus I was head of about 4 different charities.
Wow.
But that's because I don't know, I just stayed busy. So I was stay-at-home mom, but I was also doing so many things. And but I love my time with my kids, and I still do. I mean, like even when they were little and I went back to work, they traveled with us all the time. So my parents would travel, and they went all over the place. They were in like 25 states before they were like 6. So I think that, like I said, having kids and being domestic was the first time I really also started to give myself a little bit of grace. I was dropping them off at maybe Mother's Morning Out or something like that. They'd be there for 3 hours at a huge 16,000 square foot house that we'd built, and it was a monster to take care of. I hate laundry. I'm not very good at cooking. And I would just like, that was like my day. I would like go and drop them off, come back, clean, do laundry and do all that. I'm like, okay, this is not the best use of my talents. Like I'm not having quality time with my kids. I'm angry at them half the time because I have all these other demands. And that's when I kind of started making the shift back to where it's like, I'm a good mom. It doesn't mean that I cook and clean and do all that. I'm good at other things. I'm very empathetic with them. I throw the best birthday parties that you've ever seen. I do spend quality time with them and read with them and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean that I have to be good at laundry and stuff. I could hire somebody that likes doing that, which I did. I had the best nanny in the world who was really part of our family, and I still talk to today. And she always considers my kids like her first kids because like when she had her kid, they came to work together. And I mean, we were very, very close, and she had the same. That's where I say it's like when you start finding other people, and it's okay to rely on other people to be just as good as you.
I'm not thinking you have to do it all yourself.
Exactly.
Like I think that's such a superpower for you to realize I don't like nor am I good at cooking. So why would I be angry doing it and force myself to do it just to feel like a good mom? I think that's where that self-awareness and focusing on what you're good at and excelling in those areas and allowing and trusting other people. I think you're so amazing at trusting other people, and it's really a superpower of yours. So
well, and my nanny Mariana, and she is, like I said, she's the most wonderful person and is the best mom. And it was so grateful to have her as part of my life because it was, I mean, she would make play dates with my whole school loved her. Like they still ask me about her like all the time. So, and it was great because it was an equal partnership. I was so thankful to have someone as wonderful as her. It wasn't like she was my employee. She was like an extension of me that was good at that.
Right.
And, financially, when things were going on the new business, it was not as stable as it should have been. And that was also a threat to where it's like, no, I know I can do this. I know what I'm capable of and what I can do. So let me contribute in other ways. And that's not making me a bad mom. It's just, how do we all be the best at what we are and work together?
Right. And find that balance. And you had also worked so hard with your husband and your team to build this company. And then I'm sure it was hard to step back and not be involved in the day-to-day. So,
and this one was, the second business was a little bit after, because like I said, we got rid of the first business, then had my kids, stayed at home for not very long, like maybe 3 years, 3 or 4. Then came back, and he was starting it on his own based on the same blueprint of what we did, but a larger scale. But there was nobody really doing the sales like I used to, because I was never a salesperson. I was always I would say more operationally. Like I like to meet with clients and be like, okay, what problem are we trying to solve?
Right.
And then let's fix that. Like not bending to it and stuff like that, and not, taking them places. And that's why I guess it's always been relationship side. And like I said, it was when I found out that we were not doing well and was about to sacrifice everything we had. I went on a 26 city tour in 8 weeks, and sold about 12 million in business, and made sure we didn't foreclose on the house, and
took matters into your own hands.
Yeah. But it was still a team. I mean, like it was a different quality what I brought than what they did, because I did have that more relationship with, I guess, my clients, and my understanding and my curiosity to fix.
Well, you were a key piece of the puzzle, and it's like you had to be involved to some extent. So,
but we were a team. I mean, like I said, we've been, me and my ex, we were together since we were 21. started a business together, and we worked together every day, you know, for our whole lives. So it was really basically work, kids, you know, that was it, you know, for a long time. So.
But then eventually, your marriage began to unravel, and you had this company that you guys were truly a tight-knit team, and you had built together along with your family. And eventually you decided to separate and went through a divorce. What did that look like, and how did that challenge you? What was that burn like? I mean,
we don't have 2 hours for
that,
but it was very distraught. I mean, it was, at that time I was also hired by this other company as a consultant. So I was launching. So I was traveling a lot with that, and not as much on a lot of the day-to-day with our current staff, because we were already very large, very operational. And I was blindsided. I did not realize. I never, like I said, I keep pretty busy, as you've seen with me. So not really recognizing what was going on behind my back and stuff, or what was happening. And the divorce was 2.5 years. And I mean, anybody that's ever gone through a divorce, brings out the absolute worst in people. And it's a very horrible, horrible type process. And this one was hard because it affected everything. It was, you know, what I didn't realize, because I was too busy working, was all the businesses had been changed out of my names. All the bank accounts had been blocked.
Oh, wow.
I actually had to have people depot to prove that I existed. Even though every contract was signed by me and everything like that, it was as if I did not exist. And I was so busy running those last couple of things that, like, once I found out what was going on behind the back, there was like nothing I could do. And it was, and then that's where it came down to where I showed up on my first day in divorce court with corporate attorneys as well as divorce attorneys, because nobody else could. I mean, like, it was where he created another company with the same name of ours, to where all of my checks were getting deposited there. So,
oh my gosh,
no money, no access to bank accounts. You know, finding out, like, okay, we just have to, you know, forget like this ever existed, and I have to kind of, you know, say everything is normal and all that, or not. And it wasn't. And then, of course, it came with custody things and everything else. So it was 2.5 years of really, probably, I'd been through a lot of heartaches with my life, but I had never been through something that personally shattering, I guess.
Right.
Because I don't know, I am very trusting of people. I'm loyal to a fault. I mean, I do the same airline, the same hotels, the same gas station that's right around the corner. Everybody knows who I am. I'm very loyal to people, and I'm very trusting of people. And it was, you know, it was a betrayal that I didn't really understand at the time, but it did make me who I was. And, you know, I had spent through, like, right up until that divorce, you know, I'd gone through losing my aunt that was like my second mother at 55. My father very suddenly from pancreatic cancer, and where I brought him in my house for hospice and all that. And that was very traumatic, because it was very just out of the blue. Then losing my mother.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, all while everything going on, we were going through a lot of stuff with work, with, you know, lawsuits that weren't our fault, but were still grappling with us. And then raising 2 small children, you know, that were both into competitive sports, travel sports, which I don't understand. Like, nobody knows the toll of that. I mean, I was literally in 26 cities doing travel sports, because it was like I never missed a meet. I never missed a baseball game. I was still there. It was on top of the other stuff. And so that was really talk about the rebuilding. And I always say that, like, so with EDS, I count that point when I took it back over as when I really built it, because that's when it was more me. I mean, I kind of say I spent like 10 years really kind of almost being numb, to where I really took that faith of, you know, God never gives you more than you can handle, and why does he respect me so much, to, you know, that I wanted to have joy again as well. And so it really came down to like 2 days before going to court, after all of this and basically everything that we had earned up until that point, because he wanted to win. I wanted to survive. There's no winner in a divorce.
No.
And I don't blame them for it. People are just different. We all have our different qualities. And I don't have any bitterness. I mean, people say I should, but I didn't have that. I just wanted that path that I was going on to continue and my kids to be okay. Yeah. And so that was when, like I said, 2 days before, it was the choice of I could either walk away, sign a 10-year non-compete, get an alimony check and sit on the beach, but not be able to do anything that I ever did or knew and wait till that runs out. Or I could reverse the tables and buy him out and take over the company. And I did. Wow. And at that point, like I said, not just the personal, but my business, my employees have been with me 15 years. They had gone through the divorce with us. It was a choose sides. And it was there was no culture. There was no nothing. And we were negative $700,000 a year EBITDA. So on top of already losing all my money anyways, I come in with this huge debt that was non-bankruptable, I could die and I was still owe that. Like there was non-taxable or tax deductible. I just had to do it. I had to earn it and I had to get it back on track. And that's when really was that power of team, and we're learning to rely on others. And I was very generously gifted by having so many wonderful people in my life that had been with me during those time periods. And that was really the rally. And like I said, we turned that around to where we were, in less than 2 years, over 50 million, and like continuing to grow and further and further. But it was by being true to myself. People would say like that you'd think that I wasn't trusting. I was even more trusting. And I was transparent because that's who I am. And if somebody's going to screw me over, they're going to screw me over. Yeah. But it's not going to keep me down. I'm going to be trusting and I'm going to be transparent and I'm going to recognize everybody's contributions, because that's how you build something strong, is not being distrustful and not being.
And I think, you went through so much, and to still be so trusting after that and to still turn to other people, it just speaks so highly of you and your who you are as a leader, to gather and rally and say, you know what, I'm not going to have this animosity. I'm not going to be bitter about this. We're just going to keep pushing, keep surviving. And then eventually it all works out to get where EDS is today. However, there was another huge challenge that you ran into, which once you had finally, turned everything around, there was a global pandemic. Yeah. So what did that look like for not only, it impacted all of us personally, but especially being an entrepreneur with people who work, who are essential workers? What did that look like? And how did you get through that?
Well, and I kind of go back through the getting through building back what we were was not a matter of me. It was a matter of who I am because of the people that I have surrounded myself with. And so we were a very tight team. And really, I have so many people to be thankful for during all of those periods. It's so blessed to have them in their lives. But yeah, the pandemic, we had a 95% drop overnight.
Oh my gosh.
We had 4,000 employees in 25 states. And there was nothing. Nobody knew what was going on with the pandemic. It was, we looked at, okay, all right, now we've built this, and what's our burn rate? Like when is it going to end if we're at zero, right? It went to, like I said, 100,000. It dropped fast because there was no travel.
Right.
But we didn't keep our client, and we kept all of our clients. We actually grew our clients. My big thing was keeping our managers and keeping our staff, and they worked with each one of their teams. We had a call every morning, every night. All of us, we went through every location in the country. We went through almost every employee, who needs to take off during this time, who has PTO that they can take. Can we, have them to where they work 2 days, they work 3 days, trying to have as least impact as possible.
Right.
While still, functioning and learning totally new things. Like I said, we became the experts on, sanitation stuff. And we were, one of my guys, he was getting masks from, we had one of them, his mom was making cotton masks for my management team. I mean, everybody pitched in different ways. And I think that's where we were able to survive and grow, because it was a matter of how do we all team together with this world problem, that is affecting all of us, and do so with empathy. Right? Like, it wasn't like, oh, we're just going to cut everybody and do all this. Like that wasn't our way of working. They are employees, and we have to be mindful of that. And like I said, we worked with our clients. We had 2 that went bankrupt during the time, and that was a big blow. But it was really kind of that same philosophy that we're all in this together, and we're all kind of working towards, of finding a solution. And how do we do that together? And I think that's also where it comes to trust and stuff with everybody. So, but yeah, I sometimes say, I don't know how we survived, but we did, and we got, better because of it. And I think that all made us better people. I mean, I think with every life experience, it teaches us something. And I always say I had 3 epiphanies in my life. As the first one when I was 16, and we were going through a lot of instability things. And that's when I believed that life in itself is just a lesson, right? And my favorite saying from Nelson Mandela, I never lose, I either win or learn. And it's like, you're learning, and everything makes you who you are. And then the second time was, when I figured, after I survived so many of the other different things, that I used to have a fear sometimes when things were going good, the bottom was going to drop out. But then I realized I've survived a lot of bottoms. I'm going to still survive. And so it's okay, And that's when you see that life is the journey. It's not the destination. Is that you're going to survive these things, and it's going to make you better in a different way. And then my biggest epiphany was when I had my 50th birthday, and it was after my divorce and all this, after COVID, because my birthday was during COVID. And I had a small group of friends, coworkers, people that had all been with me. And I looked out, and I remembered all those little moments. And I was like, I am truly content and happy and grateful because of this hodgepodge group from all different things, but they have all been, there for one another and there for me. And that was what life was about.
That's so beautiful. I think, like you said, every experience is cumulative. All of those challenges throughout, all of your different burns and motherhood and marriage and financial pressure and global pandemic and grief, it all is a lesson. And you didn't collapse. You completely recalibrated. And I think what you were saying with empathy and truly being a collector of people, that is your greatest strength. And that's where we'll get to it in the burning question of how can we shift this narrative of women's strengths, or the perception of that in society. So yeah, that's really beautiful. So we are now going to get into the bigger societal, cultural outlook portion of the show, which I'm really excited for, because you've been through so many different trials and tribulations, and the common theme, I think, is that you are a true collector of people, and that's definitely a superpower of yours that I really admire. So here's the burning question. In a culture that often equates strength with dominance and still underestimates those soft skills, especially in women, how have empathy, relationship building, and your ability to collect the trust in the right people not only become the greatest strategic advantage, but challenge the traditional narrative of what powerful leadership is supposed to look like?
And I think that's a big thing. Is like empathy is like really, it is a currency now, because you can say, hey, I want you to be this, and this is how I want you to think, this is how I want you to do, and I need you to hit this KPI and all those things, but you're losing the best part of a person if you're not realizing what part of them can be great. How do we be great at some parts of us? We're not going to be, and sometimes our worst traits are the counterbalance to our best traits, and you can't dim one to be the other.
Right.
And that's where I call it, it's really giving grace and kind of gratitude for everybody's qualities, right? And really seeing that those soft skills can be developed into anything if you can give them the power to harness those to find something that they enjoy and that they can be really good at and feel like they can be good at it. Like, I think our success with EDS, I always try to pinpoint it, has always been that everybody that works there really just wants to be good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's that inner drive. It's not anything I have to tell them that they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like failing. And I think a lot of women, they don't like failing. They like mastering it. That's why we and men too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I think, understanding the soft skills of people and how those play into different roles and how to, I don't know, not breed that competition. I know we talk about that a lot. Like, sometimes women can be the worst enemies
Mm-hmm.
of other women. Like, there's not enough seats at the table. There's plenty of seats at the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, help propel someone else up. And I don't mean to be it's just women, but I mean just finding somebody in their path to understand and recognize their power and who their true self is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, you know, you see that with companies that are more successful, you know, they have that diverse perspective. And I think that diverse perspective is so important.
Absolutely.
And that comes from harnessing those soft skills.
Yeah. And how do you think that, I mean, you're truly living by example and leading by example, but how do you think we spread this culture of embracing those soft skills, using empathy, or, you know, empathy is more important than, like you said, what's on their resume? I mean, how do you think that we can share this with the world?
And I think that's also the secret power against AI. Like, I love AI. I use it a lot, but it does not have empathy.
No.
It's very tactical, but it cannot replace the human connection and the human, you know, that feeling that you get with others in terms of being honest and understanding them and having that empathy. And I think not down putting it to where it's like, oh no, you have to be this certain way. Oh yeah, like, or I mean, it goes into so many different things, like the name calling, like women being like, you know, put down for their personality. Okay, well that's not what you do the same thing with men. You know, women, I think having courses in empathy and entrepreneurship and team building, I think that's also important. And I think also every business does rely, unless it's 100% tech, which even still relies on tech people, but you know, how do we harness and find out what is your best trait?
Right.
I mean, like, you're a perfect example. You have excelled at everything you've done, you know, but it was giving you that recognition that you're really good at this. You know, I'm not going to stand over you and micromanage you and say, no, you do it this way and this is what I want. But what do you think? You know, what's your feeling on this? How do you think this could be better? And like embracing that with others. And I think, you know, I don't know how we can make the society change it. I just think we can do, I guess I go back to Admiral Kravitz. If he, when his speech, the commencement speech, which you haven't seen it, at University of Texas, Austin, was the best speech ever. My daughter used to listen to it every morning before she went to high school. And then I listened to it so many times. But one of the things that compelled me the most is, based on the number of people that was there, if each one of them could change the lives of 10 people, and those people were compelled to change the lives of 10 people, you could change the world. So I think that's the same thing, is don't try to think, okay, how can I change all of society? How can I change my little bubble? How can I change
your bubble affect
other
bubbles? A domino effect.
Exactly.
I think that's a great way to look at it, because I think the pressures of the world today, everyone thinks that they need to solve the problems of the world, but it's just not possible. But if we can solve one problem in our close circles, that will then extend out to others, and it's a ripple effect. And I think that's beautiful, and sharing love and empathy and creating cultures of kindness, and where these soft skills can really thrive, is the first step. And speaking of culture, how did you, and I mean, I know you have built EDS and everything as a team, but how do you really cultivate a culture where there's accountability and compassion and they coexist?
Yeah. And sometimes that's hard. Truthfully, that is hard. I mean, I always tell people as a CEO, there's three things: people, culture, and numbers, right? And I've had my doubts myself. I do get imposter syndrome every now and then, where, you know, when things are going really great and it's like, okay, but I know it could be better. How do I have that accountability? Because I am everybody knows I'm a pushover. It's like, Gabby is like my one that says, do not ask Sonya because she's going to say yes. And it's like, but you do have accountability. And I think that's where you set goals that are realistic, that are attainable. And then you ask questions, why are we not getting to those, right? Because that's not a thing of going against compassion, empathy. And it's about, okay, how do we achieve this together as a goal while still maintaining who we are as people and what our compassion is and our empathy. Like some of my recruiters, I remember our first episode when I interviewed Gabby and Grease and Alva, they all had the best answers to that. And it was like how excited they felt, like Gabby, with seeing someone succeed. And with Alva talking about like purpose and that she wanted to have a purpose and how she feels like she can change somebody's lives every day. And all three of them said how they could change somebody's life every day. And I think that's where, and they're highly successful at doing that. So I don't think you have to discredit it. There's not a difference. You don't have to be a nonprofit. You just have to incorporate a little bit of
soft
love and happiness in the world that we live in. Because it is a short place that we're at. So we got to make the best of it.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, and you truly do live that every day, and it's extremely obvious that your superpower is knowing that you can't do it alone. Yes. And you've really built a network of people to carry you through business and life, and I think that's something that we can all learn and take from this conversation. But yeah, you're a very strong leader, and I don't think that those soft skills are meant to be overlooked, but maybe even put higher on the
and you got to thank them. You have to thank people, like how good do you feel when you get a compliment, right? And a lot of times we go into our bustle and we don't think about like, how do we say, wow, you're really great at this, or you got such a great smile. I mean, it could be simple, but just how do you make somebody feel good for that day?
Right. Yeah, it
doesn't take any time.
An amazing way to instill motivation. Yeah. Rather than a harsh approach.
Yeah.
So I think that's wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to fan the flames a little bit. You give so much to your company, to the people around you, your family, this platform, but leadership can be very isolating if not intentional. So let's talk about how you fan the flames. As somebody who naturally gathers and carries people, how do you make sure you're not the person carrying it all alone?
Well, I think because I surround myself with people that will carry me if I'm down. And I don't know, to say I'm really truly happy in life is an understatement. I love every experience. I love every moment and stuff. And it brings me joy with every new person I meet or with every new experience I have, or, it makes me feel happy it makes me feel alive, I guess. And it is isolating. And I always say that sometimes I always have to have that power of pause when I feel like really stressed. I will go find a beach somewhere and look at the ocean for like 2 days. Doesn't matter where. I have to just go into abyss and just not talk and not think. I just kind of like get my mind settled because my mind races a lot. And that's some of the ways. But a lot of it, I just get so much joy with every moment and every person, and even just talking about them sometimes. Like when I talk about like you and how great that you are and how wonderful and blessed I am, I get joyful and I get happy. And so, yeah, it is isolating because you have a lot of weight on your shoulders. You have to make the decisions a lot. And there's nobody really understands sometimes exactly what you're talking about. But it's okay. It's a burden I bear. And I'm thankful because there's always a counterbalance to it that also gives me the opportunities that I have.
Right. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who you're giving so much to, they're giving it back to you in a perfect world. So I think
my mom always said that like attracts like. And I'm very fortunate for so many people from my family and my sister and my cousin and my aunt and uncle and my kids and my friends. And it's just, and it just makes me happy. And that is what really kind of keeps my flame going, I guess. And knowing that there's just so much left in life to live and to conquer.
Right.
And
I love that. So with
And shopping's fun too.
I love shopping. Retail therapy will help, right?
Always, always.
So with being so generous with all the people in your life, how do you set boundaries? Or do you even feel like you do or you need to set boundaries to protect your peace?
No, I'm not really good at setting boundaries.
Me either.
I would say I have a lot of people that set boundaries for me, and a lot of them will tell me it's like, no, Sonya, you don't need to be doing this. You don't need to do that. And it's okay. I'm not doing something that I'm not happy with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if I make bad decisions or if I, exhaust myself, I know when I'm getting to my point where I'm exhausted or I've done too much, and that's okay.
You have to take a step back.
Yeah, usually I'll get vertigo and it'll slap me on my butt. Usually I can
no.
always know that when I'm overdone myself. But
Yeah.
otherwise, like I said, I take my power of pause, as I like to call it,
Mm-hmm.
when you know that you have to step away, whether it be binge watch a TV show all day in your pajamas or, looking at the ocean or, sometimes just playing my stupid little video game and just chilling. I take my pauses when I need to, and I'm good with that. And I think it's also, like I said, just getting that joy from the other people.
Right. Okay, so you talk about things that you do to get away when you need to, when you've exhausted yourself. Do you have anything on a daily basis, like a morning or a nighttime ritual that grounds you?
Oh, well, they're not probably grounding. I stay up usually very late. I start a show and I will watch the entire season usually, and if they're really good, and then I usually text them to everybody. It's like, oh my God, have you seen this? I like my glass of wine. I like my little fish stone game in the morning, or now I've gotten really into crossword puzzles where I just have to do like about 50 of them in a row. And, that kind of grounds me. Sometimes it's just being in my mind and letting that go through.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I like to sit on my back porch and talk to ChatGPT and just ramble and say, how do we organize this? So, but my dogs, that always helps, and my kids, that's the thing. But really my biggest thing is my vacations, and everybody also always knows that is I always take a vacation with my kids, and it's our quality time. And everybody knows, like, you don't call me if Sonya's saying this is my vacation, and I usually only take 3 or 4 day vacations. I haven't taken a more than a week vacation in probably 20, 25 years.
Wow.
But I can get enough out of 3 days somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so you always say that your one true truth is gratitude. Is that something that comes naturally to you, or do you have to find a discipline with feeling grateful?
It took 55 years to find that point. That's why I always try to tell my kids, and they get very aggravated with me when I get like I try to be like all positive about things, or like, be happy and all this stuff. And it's like, you understand. I was like, no, it took all those periods of my life, all those experiences to, like, say, get to that point to where you do feel that gratitude. But it is a mind training. You have to train your mind every day. You can wallow, you can be a statistic, you can, think about the bad parts or negate yourself by thinking like, there's so many things that I'm not good at, but there's some things I'm really great at. And I'm recognizing those and saying, okay, that's okay. I know I'm going to be horrible at procrastinating or, things like that, but I can be really good at other things, and I should appreciate that because that's what makes us all human.
Yeah. Kind of finding the silver lining.
Yeah.
And training your brain to see that versus harping on the negative.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I've gone through a lot of death in my life with my family and people I'm very close to with. I've been with them at all of those points. And it gave me a different perspective as well, to where it was like, even those moments that I had with them, those actually are part of me. They're part of my soul. And even if it was short or if it was long, it's just like how grateful I am that I had this person randomly put in my life.
Right.
And how that makes you, not only a better person, but how it makes you happy to where you can't dwell on what's not there, but just be thankful that in this huge universe, you had the opportunity to be with some of these very special people that made you who you are.
Right. And thinking of the gratitude in a way that you're thankful for the time that you had with them versus dwelling on the time you don't. And I think that's really beautiful. So when life or leadership feels heavy, I know you've had so many travels and you have so many people in your life. Is there a certain person or a certain place that brings you back to center?
Mm. No, I don't know if there is, because there's so many places and there's so many people that really do. I mean, obviously my children are my everything.
Mhm.
And obviously my dogs are spoiled beyond belief, and, they keep me calm. But, one place, no. I mean, that's what I love about going to new places. Like, I actually decided, like, I never believed in cremation, but I decided that what I want to do whenever I should pass, and it's my big obsession, is I want to have all my remains into several different places and several different trips to send all of my loved ones to these fabulous places that I've been in my life, that some of them are not glamorous or anything like that, but they're just special places where I felt something, where it made me feel, like Cape Sandblast. I remember one time going through a really low period, all that heavy lifting, like you said. It was just very strenuous, business wise, everything else. And I went by myself, had a small little house there, and just walked on the beach and looked at the ocean, and looked in my mind to kind of find the answers to my problems. Because sometimes you have to quiet your mind sometimes to find solutions or what you learned.
Right.
But it's finding those little places, and you can find them everywhere, even at home. You don't have to travel, but I think you can find gratitude and you can find happiness if you look for it every day.
That's so beautiful. And I think that's a lesson that we can all take from you, is to find the silver lining in those hard moments. And let those
especially
carry us
in
through.
today's age, I mean, everybody's bombarded with so much negativity and so much of the world's problems. And that's why I say you can't solve all the world's problems.
Nope.
But you can solve what you can touch, and you can just try to be good, and that will help.
Absolutely. Okay, so you created this platform, Spark Sessions, with the intention to amplify women's voices, to pass the torch to the next generation, and to create visibility for leadership that may otherwise go unseen. Today, we're going to turn this passing the torch segment back on you and start with, why was it important for you to specifically create a platform to highlight women in leadership?
Well, it kind of started when I won EY Entrepreneur of the Year, and I was at the Strategic Growth Forum. And this is many years of my life, and it was really the first time I realized that I'm actually a female CEO. I'm not just a CEO, I'm a female CEO, and we're rare. And it is because, like I said, sometimes our, soft skills and our feminine qualities, they're kind of put down upon as not being strong enough. And people try to, you try to be in a man's world sometimes, or change that. But I recognize that, one, it was those qualities that actually got me my real success. And I wanted to give a platform to all those other women, and also to, if you hear just one thing from one person that's been on our show, and we've had the most amazing, amazing women in all different walks of life. Not all of them are CEOs. Some of them are working. Some of them are just starting their career. But everybody's gone through these challenges. Everybody's gone through these periods of self-doubt. And when you hear someone else that has gone through something maybe you've gone through, and then you've come out the other way, that can inspire them, and that can give them that feeling, I can do it, and I want to do it. And I think that's where it became such a passion project for me. And the reason why I also started it was International Women's History Month. And as you know, we have tons of women that work for our company, and all of them are in leadership roles, or so many of them. And I want to celebrate that, right? Because we should. I mean,
Absolutely.
like I said, men can have their celebration days. We have our celebration days. That's fine. That's not being against anything. But I thought it was very important to hear stories, because women, we like to communicate. We like to tell stories. We like to, I guess, resonate with each other, and make you feel like, hey, I know I've been there too, but this is going to be okay. And I think that's where it became so important, and I became so impassioned on it. And then now I just I can't stop, because there's so many amazing people out there, and I learn something every single day. And it's so, I think it's one of my big passions that I love so much.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think this platform has touched so many women's lives. I mean, I've learned so much through the women that we've had on the show. And I think it's, like you said, it's a passion project, but it really is maybe changing the life of one person who's changing the life of another. And I think it's just beautiful to have a setting where we are amplifying the voices of women. And it really is shaping the next generation of women in leadership roles. And you do every day through your daughter and the women of EDS that you work with. You're a mentor to so many women around you, including me. What kind of example do you hope that your mentees take from you and your daughter?
For them to be themselves, I think, is the most important. For them to understand their worth and understand that there is no limits to what they can do. There is no limits, and that they really should, like I said, don't concentrate on your little idiosyncrasies. That's like, you're going to have those. All of us do, right? But that doesn't define your worth.
Mm-hmm.
Your worth defines what you care about, what you believe in, and your caring and empathy for others. I think that's what shows so much with so many of them, is that how much they care for others and not selfish and stuff. And so I think understanding who you are and being proud of that. If you are proud of that and you just try to be the very best at yourself and what you can do, you can go and take over the world. And I think that, to me, is my biggest lesson. I hope that they do. And the best part about life is the journey. It's not the destination.
Yeah.
The journey is what makes us stronger. The journey is what our soul is. And really, what is this whole life? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? We're just trying to accomplish, this kind of greater utopia of everybody, being part of each other and loving each other and being positive. I mean, I think that's really where you get to heaven and stuff, is when you have this where everybody's being good to each other.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds very foo-fooey,
No.
but I think that is kind of my belief, is understanding what you're good at and enjoying every soul that you meet on how that can affect your life, and take it for the positive, not the negative.
Yeah, and I think you definitely live and lead by example in those areas. So I think everybody sees that and wants to emulate that for sure. So going back to your younger self, I know you said you learned this discipline of gratitude at an older age, but if you could go back to your younger self and give her one piece of advice at any point, what do you think you would tell her?
I think that, like I said, it would be, you're going to survive and you're going to learn. You might not know it today, you might not know it tomorrow. And that's why when you deal with loss, it's a hard one to do, because, like, what are you learning from it, right? But it does shape you. So I think enjoy the ride, enjoy every minute, and, seek those little moments of every day, and that will carry you far away, and good things will happen to you. And it really will. Yeah. And that's where I find, instead of worrying about, is that shoe going to drop? If you just live your life with a little bit of gratitude each day, you recognize what you have been given that you might have overlooked if you're wallowing in something else.
Absolutely. And so when all of this is said and done, what do you hope your legacy will be?
I think, like I said, I go back to that simple thing. I hope I've touched at least 10 lives, if not more. I hope I've given back to compel others to give back to others. I hope I've made somebody happy on a day, where they might have needed it. I think that's really what, I hope my legacy would be that I've tried my best to give back, and that I've lived my life purely like that, without trying to harm others.
I think you have a very powerful legacy, and it will live on farther than you could ever imagine. So you definitely, like I said, live and lead by example, and you just emulate everything that you would tell your younger self or your daughters or the mentees around you by example. And I think everybody looks up to you and can take that piece of advice from you.
Well, I like telling them that they can, everybody knows, it's like, just present me something. Okay. Yeah. Go.
I love that. We finally made it to the easy part, the fire round. So this is fun, quick questions, no overthinking answers. One word that describes this season of your life.
Well, I've already said a lot of them, but happiness.
A leadership value you will never compromise on.
I think empathy and compassion for others.
A morning ritual you never skip.
My little fish stone game that I'll play for like 2 hours every morning over my cup of coffee, even if I'm running late.
I love that. One thing you are unapologetically saying no to right now.
I think negative people in my life. I don't need that. My time's too valuable.
I love that. A woman who inspires you.
Does it have to be living?
No.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was amazing. Oh my gosh, I love her. And see all that she accomplished and like really push forward.
I love that. A song that feels like your anthem.
That has to be Girl on Fire. Whenever I hit my little slot pot, my jackpot, then it's like, okay, I'm on fire.
This girl is on fire. Something you always have in your bag, no matter what.
I would say, the obvious are cell phones and 5 tubes of lipstick. The other is $100 bills.
Never know when you need one.
Because I'm just always coming from or to a casino. So.
Your guilty pleasure.
Well, that's definitely a glass of wine and binge watching, like whatever's on either HBO, Apple, or Netflix, and just chilling on my back porch with my dogs.
I love that. No need to feel guilty over that. Coffee, tea, or cocktails?
Coffee in the morning, cocktails in the afternoon.
And if you could have dinner with anyone living or dead, who would it be?
I think Nelson Mandela. That would be a good one. He was so wise.
I love that. Okay, on to the final spark. Okay, so you've asked this question to every woman sitting in that chair that you are now in. It's your turn. What's your final spark? The one truth that carries you through leadership, life, and every season in between.
And I've had to think about this for like a year now. And that's where I came up with gratitude. It's like I said, first was like my kids and it's like everything else, but it's really gratitude. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my employees. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for every person I've met, my friends, my dogs. I'm grateful for life experiences and waking up every day and getting to share another one.
That's so beautiful. And bonus, just because it's you in the chair, when do you think your passion met your purpose?
Oh, I don't know. Because like I said, I thought my passion was art history. Mm-hmm. And I had a dynamic diff. I really do think it has been with EDS when I took it back over. And I was always taught like that I couldn't make the hard decisions. I couldn't have that risk because I was a good worker bee, but not like the visionary.
A leader, yeah.
But when we made it and when we soared so far above our means, I was like, nope, I'm actually kind of good at this. Like that was where my passion was. My passion was bringing those people together and giving them the courage to try and to work together. That was my happiness.
It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me reverse roles with you. I think everybody can learn so much from you and your experiences and your advice and just your outlook on the world. And it's been such an honor to hear more about your story and now be able to share it with the world. So,
well, I learn from you every day too. So I love that.
Cheers.
Thank you. You did wonderful.
Thank you. So did you.
Thank you for tuning in to Spark Sessions. Until next time, keep the fire burning.